What up YouTube? Welcome back to finally another video. I know it's been a bit of a while, I do apologise. But hopefully this will be a good one. This is the actual build log for Bear Drills, which has literally been about 2 years in the making. So, let's get into it. Say hello. That's the intro. So as I said in the intro, this is a build log for Bear Drills, which is a featherweight combat robot. It's much the same as Stabby in the sense that it's driven with the same type of motors and wheels and everything like that, and it's also made of plastic, but it's four-wheel drive, so it should have a lot more power, a lot more pushing power, and hopefully I'm eventually going to throw it in with the the spinners and see how it'll do. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, we're just going to be cutting all the pieces of plastic to size for the chassis. And if you're wondering, this is my brother. He's been helping me out with this project, and I've been winding him up a little bit.
See, I'm nowhere near.
Look, he's nowhere near.
What?
Yeah, you can really tell he likes working with me, can't you? Anyway, here we're just cutting the angle for the front of the robot. Well, there's actually going to be an angle on the front and the rear of the robot, because it's going to have a wedge on both ends, but all shall become clear later on. In case you're wondering, we're using an Evolution circular saw here, and we're not sponsored or anything, but it's quite a good saw for this, but you can use anything that you can cut an angle with to do this. It smells of plastic in here.
I wonder why.
Look at the mess you've made! Jesus Christ, man!
Look at the other next time then, can't you?
Yeah, cutting HDPE with a circular saw is quite messy, so be prepared for a bit of clean-up work. But anyway, yeah, we're just finishing off the angle cuts with the Evolution saw, and then we're using my brother's track saw to get a really nice straight edge for the next bit that we're going to cut. Annoyingly, we didn't realise that we were actually cutting the wrong angle until it was much too late, and there is a reason for this, and I have a bit of an angry rant about that later on in the video. But in the meantime, I decided to take all the bits out of Stabby and see what I could use and salvage out of that. I don't think I'm supposed to do that. They're both doing it. At least I think that might have been why the battery eliminator circuit stopped working. Perhaps not ideal. What was that doing? Oh, is it that? Oh, right, okay, I understand. Mind me, folks, I'm an idiot. I have not claimed to be anything else other than an idiot, so at least I can't misrepresent anything. Glad I made it modular. Like, well done, past Will, for not being an idiot. Look at that. There we are. The entire loom is extracted. The only issue is I might have to sort of jiggle things, because this, where the battery goes on, isn't very. I'm not even in frame, am I? Where the battery goes on isn't actually even really anywhere near where the battery is going to go in the other one. But at least if I can recycle most of this, or upcycle, as it is the case may be, we might be quite good. Well, why did you glue that in? I wonder if I can shot blast it with a... Where's that screwdriver gone? See if I can just jar it loose. Now, ow, I've done that before! Much better, foreshadowing. There we go. Now what you And then I have to pick all this off afterwards, once I've freed it up. There we are. All this can be picked off and stuff. How did that get underneath? Or did I stick it down? I don't actually remember. It was a while ago. If I can... No, that's bonded really. I'm just going to leave that, I think. For fear of breaking it. I'm sure I can get the one off the wire, so... I think. Or did I embed that as well? No, I embedded that as well. Oh, goodness me, well... That can stay in there. Because I don't have any other RGBs until I do jab B. Why I'm talking like this, I don't really know. Let's have a look inside those speed controllers. Well, that's it. That's poor Stabby stripped. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? I mean, like, empty. Oh, it's just making it worse for myself. Let's just have a little bit of a quick shifties in one of these and see if we can find out what the hell is rattling inside. I suspect these are so tiny. These are going to be like an M2 or an M1. They're tiny. I suspect it's both the battery eliminator circuits that are loose or flew off thanks to shrapnel. Thanks a lot, mate. That's Jarvis. I'm going to hit him next time. Right, I'm assuming it's going to come off this way because that's a heatsink. That wouldn't make sense. There we go. There's meant to be like air vents on the bottom of there. But there's the little sod. That's what's been rattling around. I have no idea. Can you see? Yeah. I have no idea where that's come from. But you can just, I can see it's just, looks like it's just desoldered itself. Don't even know what the part is, in case you were wondering. Come on. There we go. A 6R8. And it's yeah, it's just completely come off. I assume that is the battery eliminator circuit that is popped off. I assume because it was just sat on the top here that is really densely packed. Look at that. Very well made. Weirdly enough, the caps and everything seem alright. I would have thought they would have been popped off as well. I assume, there, like, I think those two terminals, that kind of looks like some major part of the, maybe that was kind of sat like that, something like that under there, and soldered on. But yes, so, goodbye Vienna on that one. So, let's put him back together. Now he's not rattling anymore. I don't think he is. No, he's not rattling anymore. So we'll put him back together. I'll have a look at the other one. I suspect the other one's exactly the same. So if you're still using these older, they're not really a thing anymore, but if you're still using these old ones, that is a possibility. Now, as I'm putting this together, I'll just tell you a quick story about Dave from Team Crackers and Smash, and he was running these, and he actually had the same problem where the battery eliminator circuit failed, but it failed in such a way that it melted the whole ESC. It must have shorted in like the worst possible place, like a really unfortunate place for it to short, and like must have bridged some main power straight across the board and just vaporized it. Pretty much. He after he figured out why it was on fire, he then pulled it out, and after it had cooled down, he picked up the board, and the board crumbled in his fingers. So that little board inside, what you just saw, was toast, shall we say. So suppose by rights, this one's being finicky. By rights, you probably should just remove that anyway. But I had no idea about that before. So thank you very much, Dave, for letting me know about that. Because if I hadn't known that at the time, whatever, that would have been fairly bad. But it's not really I haven't really put that on the best. It's not the straightest, but it's in and it's good, and we're not rattling anymore. So let's crack open the other one, do the same, give it the same treatment, and then we should. Sounds much of the same. We should be good. Yep. Yep, same little bit that's pung off from before. So that's not great, but at least the speed controller still works. So we've got to count our blessings for that, at least. Yeah, the same part bust off both of the speed controllers, unfortunately. But there are two good things about this. One, I now know it can happen, and also I have a backup BEC, like battery eliminator circuit, to go actually in the robot already, so that's good. And also, it didn't short anything and melt my speed controllers, which is, for all accounts, quite bad. So here I'm just recutting the angles that I ballsed up earlier. Decided to use the table saw for this, but again, you could have set up a straight edge and used a circular saw again, but I just felt like this was an easier option. Why did it all come back at me? I don't like this at all. That's excellent. That was a lot better, that one was. I still got it on me glass. Look, hang on. Look. How? Can I get, look. That's on the inside. Well, some of it is anyway. How? I've got safety glasses, a respirator. This I should have done in the first place. Don't be an idiot like me. But with the amount of dust that's on there, I didn't really want to be breathing that one in, so this is overkill. A good dust mask would do the same job, and it would stop you sounding like Darth Vader. He told me you killed him! No, Luke. I am your father. No, that's not true. That's impossible! That's your feelings, you know it to be true. Now, just to pre-warn you, there's a rant about to come up that I said to my brother about the saw blade angle. Please do enjoy. Okay, this is going to be awkward, but this represents the saw then, and then this represents the blade, and this is the surface we're cutting. So, like that. So, at 90 degrees, which is what this is set to, which is on the saw, it says 0 degrees. That's there, like that. And then it goes all the way to 45 degrees, like that. And then say 30 degrees is here, say. So at 45 degrees, this is not very good, but at 45 degrees, it's like that. But then if you set it to 30 degrees, it's like that. See the angle? This is a lot shallower. So this would be the equivalent of 60 degrees. So why do they don't write in 60 degrees on it? What? That was very dramatic. Oh, please be the right size. I shall shout, scream, cry, probably, more than likely. I mean, at this point, it looks pretty good, but I'm going to take the top off. Hang on. Admittedly, this is a bit of a jank way of doing things, but we here on the Will Caddy channel, we don't like to do things by the book, mainly because we're idiots. And when I say we, I mean I. But it doesn't stop me from making a fairly strong robot in the past. So where's that other board gone? Oh, I'm cringing. Hang on. Right. Moment of truth. Did I balls it up? Will, how have you done that, mate? How have you done that? I'm not joking, it's within like 0.5 millimetre. How have you done that, lad? Yes! Ow, that hurt! Ow! Don't do that. The back edge, the inside edge is slightly off. But in terms of the size, it is wrong. That's what that is, that's wrong. Oh! Jesus Christ, I don't know the camera over. I've done that before. Help! That's still the wrong way. No, Will! That's still the wrong way! What am I doing with my life? Don't mind me. So, I mean, ow! It's up on the edge. I mean, for an idiot, that's not bad. Now, I've literally taken a fraction, it's like 1 millimetre, it's probably just less actually than 1 millimetre off. And this is closer than, like, it's literally within probably 0.5 mil each end. And I think I'm going to leave it at that, because I don't like the idea. I mean, it's not going to make that much difference. And when the plastic deforms a bit, you can actually see where I just read it. When the plastic deforms a bit, when it's all screwed together, it should pull up all of itself back into place. So that is close enough for me. Well, first off, thank you very much, Nat, for the nice shiny new mounts, and they are actually literally shiny. They are pretty much exactly the same size, or they are exactly the same size as the last ones, except they're square edges instead of being rounded over, just for strength, really, and that's quite nice. But the other thing is, that is going to be really tight. Insert joke here, but yeah, I've kind of worked it out, and I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to print some spacers, and I'm actually going to have to double stack the ESCs. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but it's more heat than anything else, because they're now going to be driving 2 motors each, and they're going to be then stacked on top of each other. So I hope they don't get too hot. Either that, or I might be able to like fit a or if I redesign the mounts, I might just redesign the mounts, we'll see. But if I redesign the mounts, I could have like a little fan just blowing air, blowing air through. So, and I think I do have a fan left that is still working. Or even if I don't, I have one that's off of my old 3D printer, which is a bit noisy anyway, which doesn't matter for this case, because it's just going to get smashed to hell anyway. So, I think that's probably the way to go. But yeah, I might do the same with the receiver and ESC, because their mounts I made before are a little bit sort of big in there. So if I can sort of make a mount for this, and then stack that on top of it, and have the mount on top of that, then maybe. But some little jiggling about is going to need to happen. Also, can I just say, Alan, who made Plastic Fantastic, his robot is smaller than this, and he's managed to get all this in. Sir, you are a legend. Now, I'm pretty sure I've committed one of the 7 deadly sins of soldering, or probably all of the 7 deadly sins of soldering, but if it's going to work, then I'm okay. I'm okay with it. There you are, there's loom number 1. This is just, like I said, well, did I say? I don't actually remember. I might have said. This is for the motors, just so I can split the speed controller onto then 2 motors, like that. And then that way, one speed controller then will drive one side of the robot. And I just realised, I'm an idiot. I'll explain why in a moment. Okay, to address my idiocy, basically what I was doing, I was making a loom for these 2 motors here. And what's the immediate problem with that? Hint, that's the front of the robot. Yeah, I would have had front, like forwards and backwards, and that would have been it. It wouldn't have skid steered at all. Or if it did, it would have been the weirdest skid steer ever. So, but what I've found is I can actually rescue this bit of wiring. It's probably just long enough that if I swap, see that's one of the connectors, but if I swap that connector there with this connector, use that coming out of the speed controller, and then use that to go to this motor, then I can still use it. So, make sure you check your wiring before you actually, like, you know, solder stuff. Right, before I get too ahead of myself, I'm thinking we're just going to double check and make sure these speed controllers can handle the, like, running 2 motors at once. I know if you run, like, brushless, I think it's a bit more difficult, but with brushed, it should just be, it runs both of them at the same time. So where's that link? Where's my link? So let's plug it in and see. Oh, nothing blows up. I hate that bit. Even now, I know it will be fine. So, I've got the receiver plugged in. Can't see it. And that's just plugged in with one speed control. That's just the top one. Seems to be able to handle it quite well, in fact, actually. The only thing is, though, it is backwards, so I've probably plugged the right speed control into the left. I think that makes sense. Yeah, so that needs to be plugged into elevator or aileron. Whichever it is, whatever it is in now, which it is in currently, is in elevator. So that needs to be, that side needs to be aileron, and the other one needs to be elevator. Future reference will, but no, I'm quite happy with that, because nothing blew up, which is always a good thing, and it seems to like it. So 4-wheel drive, here we come. Now Nathaniel kindly pointed out that I'm an idiot, my words not his, and I really should have pressed these in with heat. So I've got me I don't want to knock anything because it's kind of set up at the moment. Got myself a propane torch, knocked down. It was on the floor, and I'm just going to heat this up. And this is just, if you're interested, this is a one of the old gearboxes that bust, but it's got the right thread on it. So I just cut the flat bit of the gearbox that's inside the gearbox where the carrier is, cut that off, and then put it in my drill press. And because it should be fairly straight, when I press it in, it should be good. And I've also set this so it can't go any lower than it needs to, essentially. So let's see what happens. Oh. Helps if you turn the gas on first. Oh, bit more gas. Yeah, boy. I'm going to turn it down a bit though. I'm going to aim not at my drill press, preferably. Now I've just found that you just heat it until it just changes colour, and then quickly shove it in. But it's going to put up a bit of a fight because it is cooling down as you're pressing it in. So I found that if you hold on to it, pull it back out, quickly blast it again. You can to get a bit more heat into it. And for the love of Christ, don't move anything when you're doing this. I shall have a wonky wheel. Get it in. And I think I've got my drill press just set below. There's a tiny bit of a lip on it, which I'm probably going to shave off. So I've got the drill press set so it's just below that, because last time I did this, spoiler alert, in the next robot build, it, like that bit on the edge, it got so hot it just melted and it was really weak, so I just peeled that off anyway. So I'm just going to hold on to this until it cools, and then unscrew it and then just leave it to cool properly. But I'm going to hold it in place until it's relatively sure that it's, you know, cooled down enough that it's not going to deform or anything, and then we'll get on with the next one. Now looking at it, it seems a tiny bit wonky, but it's for a combat robot, so it doesn't exactly need to be perfect. And plus, if you were worried about this, you could put this back in the drill press anyway, and then I'm going to leave that to cool. Put this back in the drill press anyway, and then just run a surf form along the edge, and then just, well, at a set distance, so maybe set yourself a clamp and then a set distance away, and then just let it spin, and then once that's done, it'll be completely nice and flat. You won't have this round over edge, and it'll be perfectly round, straight. Then when you're driving, it should go nice and straight. But we're here in my brother's shed because he has all the kit and I don't, so we thought it'd be easier to do it here. We're going to cut the bits, we're going to finish it off, and then we're going to build this. Can I say that on YouTube?
No.
I'll just have to. I'll put the dog in here if you're alright. So here we're cutting all the side pieces that go between the top and bottom pieces of plastic, and as you can see, I'm having a good time. So here my brother's drilling the holes for the concrete screws, and the reason I'm using concrete screws specifically is because they're really big and thick, but also they've got a really gnarly thread on them and it cuts into plastic really well and holds together well. I'm using concrete screws everywhere that the robot doesn't need to come apart very often, because if you take these out in and out too many times, you'll ruin the thread in the plastic and then you won't be able to hold the robot together. So we're doing that all on the underside, and then on the top side we're going to use barrel nuts. Sod you! So here we're going to be applying vinyl, and I thought I'd try vinyl instead of painting it because I thought it might stand up a bit better. But spoiler alert, no it doesn't. It's a combat robot, it gets bladdered regardless. But what I'm doing here is I'm going over it with the blowtorch, and the reason you do this with HDPE is just to make sure that whatever you stick to it sticks a lot better, because it brings all whatever oils that were used to lubricate the presses out to the surface, and then you wipe it off with isopropyl alcohol, and then when you stick/paint it, it sticks a lot better. So there's a top tip from me. Also, if you've got some stubborn corners that won't stick around the edge like this, just a quick blip with the blowtorch and it makes it so it shrinks and folds round and it sticks really nicely, makes a nice edge. I thought I was about to do an artistic shot then. So here we're cutting the holes for the wheels, and to do that we just put some tape down, marked it, drilled a couple of holes, and then went over it with the jigsaw. Now, because I went with 100mm wheels, there isn't quite enough room inside for the battery holder and the mounts for the motors, so my brother's just going over it freehand with a router, and he's marked out a bit of an area to give us an idea where to route out, and this is just to allow enough clearance so the lid will sit on nice. So here I actually 3D printed a template so I could get the hole spacing right for the motor mounts. But the original version of that actually had a lip that sat over the edge of the holes for the wheels, and it was all based off of that. But the trouble with that was the holes weren't cut perfectly because it was with a jigsaw, so it ended up throwing everything else off. So what I ended up doing is re-drilling the holes with a bigger drill bit, putting in a insert nut just so the screw had something to bite against, and that left just enough wiggle room for the screws to line up with the holes on the motor mounts. That way, once they were all tight, it didn't cause the motor to sort of get stuck or anything like that when it was running. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the wood is just to help me keep the drill straight so I don't end up drilling it on a wonk. By the way, a big thank you to Nat for giving me that idea, because I was in a bit of a pickle there and I wasn't sure what to do to get out of it, so thank you very much for that. These aren't very strong, these insert nuts, in all honesty. I'm not sure what they're made of, but I really should have just gotten like steel ones specifically, but they did the job with Stabby fairly well. So where's the hole? We're looking quite good. Come on. Be the hero that Gotham deserves. Yeah, boy! They're all in. Right, let's have a go. I mean, in all honesty, it looks pretty good. It's pretty much exactly where I marked, which is lovely. And it's pointing quite straight. Even the wheel runs quite true, to be honest. Which is amazing for me. I know. I'll get that in before you lot did. Yeah. This is, oh yeah, this is the need for tyre. It doesn't actually go through if I don't have a tyre on it. I'm going to put a nice fat tyre on there. I think I'm going to stick with this kind of thing, because this is nice and thick, this kind of stuff. So I'll hopefully find some more, if not thicker, you know. I mean, if I could get thicker tyres, that'd be lovely, and that'd give me just a little bit extra ground clearance. But that is one horribly annoying problem solved. So much, it works so well, in fact, I'm almost tempted to do all these, but then at the same time, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Well, there we go, all the motors are in. After that little bit of a tiny little bit of a mistake. I mean, these things happen, especially when you're an idiot. Anyway, so I think the next step is just to try and get the battery box in the middle. This big honker thing in the middle somewhere. I'm thinking around about there, because then I've got enough room to get the wire from the link through and around. And then the speed controllers will sit, these are just the cases, but the speed controllers will double deck on top of each other there, if I was actually aiming at it. So that should be about it, and then it's going to be tight. I'm probably going to just put like the receiver down at the front here out the way, or you know, just here probably, because then it won't get any spray if the motor decides to disintegrate itself. So that's looking pretty good. So here I'm just remaking the loom. I decided that the loom from Stabby wasn't really suitable, and I kinda needed to make sort of a dedicated one for bare drills, and it worked out that better in the end anyway, because it meant I had a lot more flexibility. I'm actually embarrassed to say now, but at the time I couldn't work out why the motors were actually more harder to turn when they were connected together. And then I had a eureka moment. Take a look at this. I think I've just worked out the other reason why they're a bit harder to turn now. Like, I'm only turning this one. But because they're linked together, because it's now four-wheel drive, I suppose one's acting like a generator and going into the other one. which then also begs the question, if one's stalling and one isn't, is that going to send voltage or whatever current back into the speed controller and blow it up or something stupid, or will they just kind of work because the speed controller's outputting to them? I don't know. Just so you know, this blue thing is filled with books. Oh, this thing's got some grunt. So here I'm drilling the holes for the battery box, and I'm going up like one size at a time just to make sure that I don't overshoot the hole. But because I'm an idiot, here comes yet another mistake. I was countersinking the hole, and you'll see in a moment, I was countersinking the hole with a bigger drill bit and accidentally hit the fast speed instead of reversed and went right through it with the wrong size drill bit. My reaction was a bit priceless. Yep, that was the inhale of death, followed by me being utterly speechless. What a prat. I managed to fix it using the same method I did with the motor mounts, and I just put an M8 insert nut in instead of an M6, and now it's got an M8 screw, so at least we managed to fix it fairly easily. So I've clamped the lid on, and I've just positioned it where it needs to be. Don't worry about that gap there, because that's going to be routed out for the two Hardox plates, which I have now, which is rather nice. And so I'm just marked where the sort of bottom screws are, and not that they're actually going to interfere on each other, I don't think they will, but I've marked them, and then I've just gone in the centre of them, and then I've kind of marked where the sort of barrel nut needs to go in, and then just needs to drill that with a handy dandy, wherever I've put it, drill guide I made out of the old, what was left of the axe bar. Hopefully there's a video on that somewhere. But yeah, so just got to drill these and then figure a way of getting that dead centre in the middle of there, which should be as easy as just marking it across there and then centre punching it and then drilling it the other way. But you know, with my track record, it doesn't always go that well. Where's Teddy? Where's Teddy? Get Teddy. Where's Teddy? Go get Teddy. Now this is where this thing really came into its own. As you can see, I didn't quite have my centre punch lined up properly, or I didn't have one step along the line I hadn't lined it up properly. So I literally put a line, like marked a line where this with it, put the drill bit into the hole, marked a line where it is, and then transferred that line across, and then just lined that up with that, and then just moved it along, just probably half a centimetre or less, a few mil. And now that's lined up perfectly with that. I was able to drill the hole without it skewing off at a weird angle. And with a bit of nous back and forth, because this whole front to back here wasn't exactly perfect either. But now I've got that in a perfect position, and the hole doesn't look too bad. Like, it just looks like it's a slightly wider hole, which is fine. I mean, we're not going for complete precision here, obviously, because it's me. But yeah, so if I get the old, I need to get the old countersink on the go. 1 second. Tell you what, I've never come across a material that's harder, well, perhaps maybe Hardox, but harder to countersink than plastic, because it just doesn't eat anything. Either that or my bit's really bad. We get in there. The old screw, the other 1-2 screw, right. Probably ruffle the edges a bit as I put it in. I'm probably going to run the drill bit through here again afterwards. I think we're lined up. We must be, else it wouldn't be going in. So now, if I line this up, wind this in. You've gone slightly off top again. I am going to put a dab of super glue or something on these little barrel nuts to stop them twisting, because they have a habit of twisting slightly as you're about to screw in. There we go, I think we're in. To be honest, I don't mind if one of these barrel nuts kind of goes all weird, because this is the test run. And then once I work it out, then that's actually pretty flush there. That's quite nice. That's pretty much flush there. I think that's in. I mean, this seems pretty damn strong to me. Let me get another one in this side just to align it. Are you the right one for that? You're not. Sod's law. Fucking bang it. There we go. But there we have it. Barrel nuts, apparently more work, but going to be hopefully a lot stronger in the long run. So I'm going to do the rest of these, and this time I'm actually going to, like, because I've centre punched them pretty well, like pretty in the centre. I must have just effed up somewhere, so I might just go through, and then when I line it up, I'll go through a little bit more with the initial drill, so I can line it up perfectly, and then I'll put the other drill in, and then we should be good. Incidentally, if you're wondering what drill bits I'm using a 4 to pilot it, and then a 7 to enlarge it, and then the final 10 diameter for the barrel nuts to be able to fit in, and they fit in really nice and snug, which is a very good thing. Yeah, me clamp slowly, slowly biting the dust. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to use the other one. I'm bleeding. How? Where? Is it just my finger? I'm just going to jump cut to the end of Robot Wars, where Jonathan Pierce talks about building robots is dangerous and shouldn't be attempted without great care. Apparently I've cut myself. Back from injury repair. It's actually went quite deep. I have no idea what caused that, but just again another reason to be bloody careful when you're doing this, because you never know where an injury might come from. Just finishing off the last few holes that I didn't do before, so if you're wondering, that's what I'm doing. So the only downside to this drill guide, once you get so far, there's nowhere for the bits of swarf and stuff to go, so it can be a little intensive on the drill when you get to lower down, but if you keep pulling out and stuff like that, it'll be fine. You can clear all the swarf and then go back in again. I'm not sure how much of this I filmed before, but I found a good way of finding the centre of these holes is to actually use the barrel nut itself, slot it onto the screw, and then, can you see any of that? You can. Slot it onto the screw, and then there's a centre line down middle, and then what you can do, you can put a square against the edge of the plastic, providing your plastic square, of course, or whatever material you're using, and then that'll be pretty much dead centre where you need to mark. So I've already marked this, so I don't know why I'm doing this again, but I just realised, but I've marked this already, and I'm just going to transfer that line down to meet that line, and then that will give us a centre for the punch. Centre punch, a little thwacker. Everyone needs a little thwacker. This happens to be a Rawlson little thwacker. This is how I've been using so I can get enough light. Works surprisingly well. Perfect. I'm just going to enlarge that. Just make sure. Centre punch. I didn't film it, but I actually put a new point on the centre punch because it was getting a bit blunt, and I just did that with I just strapped it into the put it in the chuck of the drill, and then put it on a slow speed rotating, and then I just took it to the bench grinder. And you don't have to use a bench grinder. You could use a file. You could clamp a file to a desk and then just do that with a file, and that would have the same effect. But I've got a bench grinder, so I thought might as well use it. This kind of thing, I don't like going on the fast speed, just because I wanted to make sure. Just go a little way. Make sure it's that, not that, because you're crying. Let's double check. And then I found if you just quickly go the opposite direction, it helps clear the swarf out, which is excellent. Right. Where's old Chunky? I need a name for this. Anybody in the comments? I need a name for me me new and improved drill guide, because I can't call it bear drills because I've already put in bear drills. Yeah, ideas in the comments. Now, alignment was an absolute ball ache yesterday, so I decided to print this jig. There's actually the V2, this is the V1 jig, and although this worked, and it worked for these are now stuck out ever so slightly, which is triggering me no end, or mainly that one, but these two aren't too bad. But also rather wobbly, so I thought, screw that. So I printed another one so I could actually clamp to it properly at the top, because I was jankily clamping through the holes, and then hopefully this will serve us a bit better. I also indented this slightly, so that should be further across in theory. I made the gap between the front from where this meets here and there bigger, and this hole is dimensioned from that back piece here, so hopefully that should work. Marvellous. Now we should be perfectly lined up. Should being the operative bloody word, because I've been having all end of trouble trying to get this lined up. Incidentally, I asked on the Robo Dojo group last night for tips, and thank you very much to Sam and Craig, you know who you are, for helping me out, giving me some really good advice on getting these bloody thing lined up, and also if for whatever reason this doesn't line up very well, sort of tips to make it so it does line up better. So the old jig was my kind of idea, but he had a very good idea about sort of drawing a line down as well and centre punching it and that kind of thing, which works really well if you've got eyes that'll cope with it. I cannot see for the life of me where I really want an optical centre punch. They are amazing, and I missed one on eBay and I'm very annoyed about it. So we'll have to do with this. Bit more filament, bit more time, but if it works, then screw it. Right, that goes in there. That's rather nice. Put that U in there then. Oh, goodness. I was worried that was going to go too far through, but it's alright. I've got so many of these barrel nuts to try and tap, because they're just off. Well, they're much better than insert nuts, because obviously you're trying to pull that much plastic out the way as opposed to just the threads in the plastic. But freaking nightmare to line up, and if you don't have them lined up and you try and screw them to them, then you just mangle them. You have to re-tap them. Bit of a nightmare. If that goes in there. See, that was a bit looser, that one. So hopefully See, I want them to be nice and tight, but reality, it's like reality versus expectation at this point. See, yeah, there we go again. See, reality is losing. Yeah, if you had like all CNC, so if you could CNC these holes perfectly, and then everything was CNC, like you did the lot on a big CNC machine, then you could probably expect these to be nice and tight, and then Bob your Uncle Fanny's your aunt. But I'm finding that pretty much 90% of them, even with me jig, which has made things so much easier, still going to need a bit of persuasion. Right, that didn't work, did it? Because you out of that. Because if you elongate the holes and make them a little bit bigger, and I'm going to need that barrel nut. Where is it? If you make the holes bigger, then I don't know where it went. If you make the holes bigger, you've got some more slop and some more wiggle room. At the expenses, these are going to be much harder to put in. See, that one's loose. I had to make that one loose. This one was loose. That one's pretty much loose. That was the only one I managed to get somewhat cock on, and even then it wasn't that great. So, where's my drill? So I would recommend just going in with the drill, and then just kind of go in a circular motion back and forth, and just make the hole a bit bigger. 90% of the time, that's all you'll need. Was that the one? I have no idea, because I've got a bunch on here that were mangled. I'm going to make sure this actually screws all the way through. It does. Try the other side. Which one's better? Both the same. So if I get one in now, see, now that one is sloppy as all hell. But the advantage is, now that can move freely to sort of align with this as you're screwing it in. So now, is that going in? I can't actually tell. Nope. Need a bit of wiggling. I mean, it looks like I've got the alignment slightly better on this one, but no, still doesn't want it. If I make sure he's in the right thread. There we go. I'll probably make that hole a little bit bigger again, just to make sure, but there you are. Because it's very easy with these things to get on the wrong thread, and if you don't get it on the right thread, then that's when they mangle. I'm saying all this as if I know what I'm doing. I'm experimenting as much as everyone else is at this point, but I actually went the wrong direction. It probably should have been that way a little bit, but that slight bit of slop won't affect the effect. You know what I mean? It won't affect how strong this is, but it'll make it a lot easier when you're trying to get them in. I am kind of tempted to, I'll probably on the back and the inside, because I'm going to be wanting to try and do this pretty fast in between in between battles and things. So the plan is probably to put some sort of, I don't know, tape or something on the inside, just to stop me from pushing them all the way through. And then when I'm aligning them up, I can just have a screwdriver and a screw, and each one, and then shouldn't be too bad. But I do have a lot of them. But I wanted to make sure this lid stayed on, because Shrek, Mr. Get Shreked, Sam, you know who you are. You're helping me on the forum, but in the other breath, you're then knocking my lid off. I'm watching you. Now, once again, we've proven that an idiot building robots doesn't altogether go that well. I've just got my Hardox. I was all very happy and everything, and then I realised I haven't taken into account the bloody angle and how it's going to mount. So this is kind of where it would sit, or wanted it to sit. And you see I've got like barely any material to sort of bolt to. So I thought, well, if I lifted it up slightly, trying to do this one-handed is really awkward. Lift it up slightly, so that's about what, square with the bottom of that. I've got a bit more, but not much. Whether to maybe elongate the plan was to put a bloody barrel nut at the end, so here, so then it would go in straight, so like that there, and then go into a barrel nut, which would just be screwed into the bottom. And then, but obviously I didn't, rushing like an idiot, didn't take that into account. So me and my dad had a cunning plan to mitigate this problem, and if you get that reference you win a sweetie. But we decided to cut some plates to go either side of the robot that will weld to that front plate, and then also bolt in sideways as well as the bolts that's on the front. Hopefully that should hold it on and make sure it gets wrecked or shrapnel proof. Now I was going to try and do that edge with the router, but I don't have the right bit or the right surround to go around it, and I can sort of, where's the router? I could do it along this flat edge here, but then I have got just not enough room to sort of clamp to there. So I've come up with this dodgy idea. Well, to be honest, it's safer than the last one, but then I'm not sure how accurate it is compared to the other idea. It ought to be alright. I've just set the line there, set this to the same angle as the front of that, set the depth of this to be just shorter than the Hardox bits, so, and then I'm just going to run across it, just taking a blade's width at a time until I sort of start looking like I'm going to get close to these. And that's another reason why I'm using this blade as well, because it is rated to cut mild steel if I did happen to run into it by mistake. So we'll have to see how that goes. About there currently. I do want this to be flush with this, just enough room to clear the floor there, because I was going to have it so it was kind of just slightly below the bottom, but I think to give the most meat I'm going to have it flush, so I've got the most meat when I go through with the screws, because I want that to be, as you can imagine, pretty damn strong. It's going to need to be pretty damn strong, so I'm literally just going to go a natural whisker deeper. I hope I haven't been in the way the whole time. I do apologise. I'll like put a video in somewhere if I have. So I'll put this there. Oh, that is so close. Like, genuinely. If you haven't seen these already in the video, I'm not sure yet, but these are my side pieces. But I'm just going to use them as a bit of a guide. You know what? That's so unbelievably close. There's like, the perfectionist in me wants to go a tiny bit lower. Like, it's that close, it's literally coming off in like strips of tape. Any kids in the audience remembers, or well, older big kids I suppose in the audience, remember VHS? That's what that was like. That's so close, I don't want to go any more, so we're sticking with that. Let's lock that in. Actually, it's already locked in. And no my luck, if I try and tighten it more, I'll go the wrong way and it'll go and I'll miss it. Yeah. Right, I've got a bit of a decision to make. Basically, I've trimmed that so that fits in like there, but you see, it's still not quite in far enough. But I am literally right at the edge of where the screws are now. I actually hit a couple of them whilst I was cutting it, just only nicked the edges, and I thought, well, do I go in further? Like, do I do another pass with the blade and then risk these being, I suppose, not as strong? Or do I leave it as it is? Or do I change where all the screw holes are? Like, move them all to the left or to the right slightly and move them in. But then I don't have much meat for it to go. I really don't know. Now hopefully you get a sense of what it's going to look like. We've got the plates that will go along the side. They'll have bolts sort of there, sort of here, wherever I can get them in really. Then we've got the Hardox plate along the front, and the same with the other side. And then these bits here will be welded. But I'll have to chamfer the edges, and then I'm not sure. I don't think my welder can do 6mm, so I'm going to have to sort of chamfer it in, sort of in along the edges, and then the same on the inside. Weld it, grind it, and then run another sort of pass over it to get a strong enough weld. And I'll do this both sides. I'll do it on this side, on the inside, wherever I can again. And hopefully that'll be enough to hold it on. Next time I'll just get a freaking Hardox plate that's about like a bit wider, so it's like here. Or maybe the whole front of the robot, I haven't decided. So in future, it might be the way to go, just have it so it goes up to where that is or something. And then that way you can go through into this plate, and then if it gets ripped off, it's only this front plate rather than the whole sort of bottom panel. So definitely food for thought in the future. Right, so between the last clip and this clip has elapsed about 2 years. It's been a while. I started doing the build for bear drills just before, you know, COVID really started getting off. I mean, that's a buzzword at the minute. So it's been literally 2 years in the making, this bot. But because the event that was actually, they started the events up at the start of this year of 2020. So I basically procrastinated for a good 2 years. Well, my reasoning is there was no events really to go to, so I'm like, well, I'm going to put some energy into some other stuff for now, and then I'll come back to this later. And this is later. So this is Bear Drills in its current form. He's been in a couple of battles now. To date, what's that? How many battles is it? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that took me way longer to work out than it should have. He's been in about 12 fights now. And apologies, there's no footage of that at the moment. The 2 Extreme Robots events at the start of the year, I didn't film because I wasn't sure what was going on with that. Because they're going to be starting to upload and do all the featherweight fights themselves, and they're going to have like a bit of commentary over it. So I didn't want to tread on any toes there. So I left it. Plus, it was a bit of a rush. The first event that we went to, I hadn't actually finished. So it was all a big rush at the event, and we actually missed... no, that's the point. We missed the first fight, so it's technically been 11 fights. There we go. Anyway, long story short, this is its current condition, and I just wanted to go over overview of some of the changes. Obviously, the most obvious is now I've got this nice logo and stuff on, and the actual plate on the front is welded in on. I shall hopefully have some pictures somewhere. I'll put over this bit anyway if I don't. So on to, you know, the changes for bear drills. Obviously, the most obvious change is these nice new plates. These are the Hardox plates that I got water cut. Can't remember who it was. It might have been K-Cut or something like that. It was part of a group order. And then these were the ones that I hand sawed with my dad. These are just mild steel here, and then this is Hardox. This is Hardox 500 6mm, and I believe this is 6mm as well. You can see it taking a bit of a damage, but nothing too major. Yeah, the Hardox this is just surface, like it's completely perfect still, pretty much. We painted it black just to make it look better, which turned out to be a bad idea because it meant I couldn't actually see the bloody thing in the arena. It was very difficult to see in a dark arena with a black robot, and I really didn't think about that. So that might be something that I don't know, add an LED strip or something here in the future. Anyway, so inside, I'm going to take this lid off. Oh yeah, these are held on by the what's it called? They're like concrete screws. They're really nasty. Have I got any over here somewhere to... These aren't the exact ones, but they're the same brand and the same type, but they're just too long. But yeah, really nasty, big, fat concrete screws. These are absolutely wonderful for holding plastic together. Like, all the bottoms held on with this, obviously a shorter version of it, but with these. And all the front plate, and these are eventually going to be barrel nuts, I think then. These are eventually going to be barrel nuts, but for speed I've just done them out of these concrete screws, which isn't good because these eventually will just get to the point where they won't hold very well. But yeah, that's the plan for that anyway. So if I open this up, put that over there, out the way. Oh yeah, I'll get onto that in a minute. Hello Baba, hello Baba, you invading my video? Are you invading my video, Mummy? Are you invading my video? What are you doing? This is Sadie and this is Toby, and they like to be in my videos. They like to invade, don't you? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you're very, very good. Yes, you're very good. Yes. So yeah, inside here we've got the link holder, which is just the original link holder from Stabby, and I'll show you Mark II link holder in a moment, but that was just cut in the same way, where it was drilled with a 5 or 10mm drill bit, something like that, big enough to get the blade in, and then cut with a jigsaw. This is the original jank holder Mark I, with the extra big hole on one side because I'm an idiot. You probably saw that earlier on in the video. Using the same because we're using the same ESC, so using the same battery eliminator circuit and the original mounts for the receiver. It's a Spectrum AR610, I believe. Very hard to get hold of it at the minute, because everything's going to the new standard, so I'm going to have to switch eventually, but I'm going to use it while I've still got it. These are all still Argus drill motors. These are all cordless drill ones for these ones, and if you're wondering, yes, this thing has been putting up a fight, and I want the motor out of it, so I will get into it eventually. Yeah, these are all the original mounts from Stabby. Start again. Yeah, these are all the original mounts from Stabby. Jabby's coming soon, hopefully, if I can get around to it. Mainly because these actually sat slightly lower than these newer ones. There must have been a slight, I think I must have spec'd it up slightly differently when I sent it to Nat, and ballsed up slightly, so that's my fault, not his. Mounts all fit lovely. They all run really nice. Well, they run really nice once you actually, you know, tighten the mounts in the event and don't forget to, you know, I'm an idiot basically. Yeah, these are the original what's his face, ESC holders. This is the reason this one's pink is because this one's ABS, and that was just because I didn't have time to finish printing the other polycarb one. So, but it seems to hold fine, and the polycarb one's on the bottom, which is arguably where it's going to take most of the impact anyway, so it's fine, it should be alright. Well, it was alright for all the fights so far. Yeah, of course, jank holder Mark I is still here, of course. We've got to keep jank holder. I'll show you jank holder Mark II in a moment, but yeah, that's about it. Also not sponsored, Team SC, go and check them out. Yeah, so, oh yeah, put LEDs around the inside just so I'm legal, because you have to have an LED to show that the robot's on. So these, I'll put them all the way around, glued them in with hot glue, just so it shines through the wheels, sort of the wheel wells and there, so you can pretty easily see that it's on. which is a requirement. That's a safety feature, so you've got to have that. But yeah, as a side note, we actually, for Robots Live, we actually went to Robots Live for the first time, and I went with my friend John. You've probably seen him in a couple of the older videos. And he actually, I managed to get Stabby up and running. With some new parts from, again, Team SC sell these lovely little speed controllers. They're 100 amp speed controllers, and he sells the 3D printed mounts for them as well. These are great, so and hold them really secure. Like these just didn't move for the entire event, which is great. Same with these, actually the original holders again. I'm going to move on to the new ones that Team SC sell. The newer drills, because they're actually screwed together where these aren't, so I'm going to move on to them eventually, but I need to re-drill the holes for those because the spacing is slightly different, but that's fine, I'll get onto that eventually. But yeah, this is Jank Holder Mark II, and John's expert skill, he managed to sort of go through and put like this automotive foam stuff all around it, so it's holding it nice and still. This is just a piece of C channel, which I printed some sort of legs for it to make it high enough, and then I want the spacer as well, because I had to get a battery last minute, and the only people I could get a battery from was, I can't remember the name. I will put the name over the video here, because they were great. Their service, it was a UK based firm, Hobby something. I'm really sorry, I can't remember, but I'll put all the links in the description, and I'll put something on the screen here so you can see what it is. But they sell these GLG something, again I'll put it on the screen, batteries, lipos with some really high C ratings, and pretty damn close to what I'm going to want to run in here in terms of capacity as well. So that they really got me. Like, this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for them, so thanks a lot for their amazing quick serve. They're not paying me to say that, I'm just saying that because they were absolutely awesome. Yeah, this is Mark II link holder, where I've actually, got it so it holds the back on. I'm going to have to make some slight modifications, so I'll release it on Thingiverse or one of these sites, or whatever the Prusa one is now, in a few different places, once I've got the tolerances perfect, because I actually file that down ever so slightly, which arguably is better because you want it to be tight, but that allowed, this is like super secure. This is just printed in PLA again. Well, actually I think that was in ABS, that one, but I printed this in PLA because of speed. Same with the things there, the little spacers, that was printed in PLA for speed, but it held up fantastically. No problems with that, and I had no spares, so it was kind of important that that worked. I don't know why there's a random connector here. Has that been in there the whole time? Seriously? That's the... I can't believe that. That's the original connector off the battery. I had to switch it for an XT90, and that's still in here. So that survived 6 fights just in here. What's all that about? Oh dear. Anyway, this is... I don't claim to be anything other than an idiot. Anyway, but yeah, so that's about the major changes for that. Everything else is much of the same on Stabby. Other than the fact that John, bless him, I don't know how he does it. He's just got a thing for breaking RC stuff. He crashed my drone into a tree, and now he's completely killed both of my motors in Stabby. 50 odd fights. It's 60 fights now, or just over. This thing's been in, and I give John the controller for 6 fights, and he does this. That's not supposed to sound like that. This one's even worse. Look, that one even barely moves. Ugh, I'm moving the whole entire robot. Yeah, so if you're planning, or any roboteers watching, if you're planning on letting John drive your robot, don't. Well, there we have it. There's the completed build. Bit of a long old video, that one, wasn't it? Thank you very much if you're still with me, sticking right through to the end. You're awesome, thank you. One thing I forgot to mention in the video earlier is that I actually did manage to get some footage, or John actually managed to get some footage, because technically he was filming. He had the GoPro strapped to his head. of Robots Live, and Robots Live is another live show. I normally go to Extreme Robots, but I'd never actually been to a Robots Live, and I thought, you know, I've been wanting to go for quite a while, so screw it. It was only in Stoke as well, so it wasn't far away from where I live, so that was really, really quite good. Robots Live seems to be a really good place for new designs and testing of robots as well, because there's no spinners. So it's because the arena itself can't house spinners. They have mainly flippers, hammers, that kind of thing, or whatever. So if you want to try something new, or just go and have a laugh, it seems like a really good, you know, proving ground almost. And then once you're happy with your design, then you take it to Extreme Robots and then probably get smashed out by Neon. But, you know, we'll see how that goes. Also, huge thanks to Nat. Again, he crops up, it seems to be, every single robot video because he's just a wonderful person. He provided the speed controllers. He's provided speed controllers for my brother's robot because we had one burnt out while we was down there. We had mounts off him, pretty much everything off him, to be honest. So go and check out Team SC on the interwebs. It's teamsc.co.uk, and he's got featherweight parts, ant parts, I think beetle parts. I might be wrong on that one, but he's definitely got the other two. But hopefully going forward there'll be some more videos coming of actual fight events and things like that if you're interested in that, as well as there's a build video, a bit different type of build video coming up once I finally get around to editing it. I've got a new shed, it's quite fancy, so hopefully that will be coming up again soon as well. Also, if you're a fan of the robot content, hopefully soon, it might be a next year thing now, but I have a project in mind and it involves big motors. That's all I'm going to say, so stay tuned for that. But that's about it, I think. So thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, comment and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I shall see you next time. Ta-da! Hello, say hello. Say something. Come to me, brother. What do you want to call it? The man cave. Whatever you...
Alright, I'm just going to stand here.
Okay.